Inside the gauntlet, June found himself standing on an ancient Earth battlefield. The sky was gray and the air smelled of smoke and blood. In the distance, enemy forces were advancing. The neural simulation felt completely real. A voice spoke, in his mind. Scenario objective: defend the hill against superior enemy forces until reinforcements arrive. June looked around. He had a small squad of simulated soldiers and basic weapons. The enemy force was at least 5 times larger. His first instinct was to prepare for a direct fight, but he stopped himself. This was exactly what the gauntlet expected. It wanted him to fight a battle he could not win. Instead, June examined the environment more carefully. The hill had an unusual rock formation on one side. It reminded him of something he had studied in Earth history. "Squad, follow me," he ordered, leading his troops to the rocks. Rather than preparing standard defensive positions, June had his squad move specific rocks to create a chain reaction. When the enemy forces approached, he triggered a landslide that took out 1/3 of their numbers without firing a shot. The scenario immediately shifted. Now June was alone on a space station. Warning lights flashed as oxygen levels dropped. The computer announced that life support was failing. Scenario objective: restore life support before oxygen depletion. Most cadets would rush to the life support systems to attempt repairs. Instead, June accessed the station's computer. Rather than trying to fix the broken system, he rerouted functions from non-critical areas to create a temporary life support bubble. As soon as he succeeded, the EIT scenario changed again, and again, and again. With each new challenge, June looked for the underlying patterns and rules of the simulation itself. He wasn't just solving the problems presented, he was analyzing how the gauntlet created problems. In one scenario, he found a way to access the simulation's command structure. Instead of fighting the monster that appeared, he temporarily froze the simulation parameters. Outside in the real world, the monitoring staff watched in amazement. "That's impossible," one technician whispered. "He's rewriting the parameters of the simulation from within." Commander Han stepped closer to the monitors. "He's not just solving the scenarios, he's hacking the entire system." Hours passed. Most cadets lasted 30 minutes in the gauntlet before using the emergency override. The previous record was 2 hours. June had been in for almost 4. Finally, the neural chamber opened. Medical staff rushed forward, expecting to find June unconscious or in distress. Instead, he sat up calmly, though his face was pale and his hands trembled slightly. Commander Han approached. "Cadet Park, the gauntlet is designed to be unbeatable. How did you complete all objectives?" June, exhausted but standing tall, replied simply, "I didn't try to beat it on its terms, I changed the terms." Dr. Song checked his vital signs. "Remarkable. His neural patterns show stress but no damage." June was the last cadet to complete the trials. As medical staff helped him to a recovery area, the other cadets watched in silence. Even those who had mocked him looked surprised by his endurance in the gauntlet. The next morning, all cadets gathered in the Academy's central hall for the announcement of the results. The atmosphere was tense with anticipation. A massive holographic display filled the center of the room, currently blank. Admiral Vex stood on the platform below it. "The combat trials have tested your abilities, your teamwork, and your mental fortitude," he said. "The results will determine your future at this academy." The holographic display activated, showing a list of names ranked by their combined scores from all 3 phases. Everyone looked up, searching for their position. The central hall fell silent as they saw the name at the top of the list: Cadet June Park, Human, Earth. "There must be an error in the scoring algorithm," Talon protested loudly. Commander Han stepped onto the platform. "There is no error. Cadet Park achieved the highest overall performance by demonstrating exceptional tactical innovation, adaptability, and psychological resilience." Murmurs spread through the gathered cadets as Han continued. While Cadet Park did not excel in raw, physical metrics, he demonstrated something far more valuable in a galactic defender: the ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges through intelligence, creativity, and determination. From the officers section, Commander Kim watched with a proud smile. Humans have always been physically weaker than most spacefaring species. Han addressed the stunned audience. Yet they survived and thrived on a planet with some of the most diverse and dangerous evolutionary competition in the galaxy. They didn't become apex predators through strength alone, but through problem-solving and adaptability. One by one, the other cadets approached June, their earlier mockery replaced by newfound respect. "I've never seen anyone approach the gauntlet like that," Mira admitted. "You didn't just complete it, you rewrote it." Even Talon offered grudging acknowledgement. "Perhaps there's more to humans than we realized." Kang pushed through the crowd to reach his roommate. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with amazement. "You actually did it." "We did it," June corrected him. "Your support helped me get through this." Later that day, June received a message on his datapad. It was from Commander Han, offering him a specialized position in tactical innovation, a department previously closed to junior cadets. That evening, a small celebration was held in the human cadets section of the dormitories. Commander Kim attended briefly. "Your performance has changed things," she told June quietly. "Not just for you, but for all humans at the academy." "I just did what you suggested," June replied. "I found a different way to approach the challenges." "Commander," Kim smiled. "That's what humans do best. We adapt. We find solutions that no one else sees." As the night went on, June slipped away for a moment of quiet. He stood at a window overlooking the academy grounds, thinking about his grandfather and the generations of humans who had fought for respect among the stars. "They'll still underestimate us," he said to himself with a slight smile. "And that's still our advantage." Within days, news of the human cadets' unprecedented performance spread across the Galactic Alliance. The Academy's communication systems were flooded with messages from other educational institutions and military organizations, all wanting to know more about the human approach to the combat trials. Applications from human candidates to the Academy increased tenfold. Other species began to look at humans with new interest and respect. Admiral Vex made one significant change to the Academy's orientation materials, adding a new warning for incoming alien cadets. Never judge a species by their physical limitations alone, especially humans. 6 months later, June stood before a class of new cadets, both human and alien. As a junior instructor in tactical innovation, he had been asked to share his experiences. "The greatest strength of any species is not what they can do naturally," he told them. "It's what they can learn to do despite their limitations." A young human cadet raised her hand. "But the aliens are still stronger and faster than us. How can we compete?" June smiled, remembering his own doubts when he first arrived. "They may have physical advantages," he said, "but we have something just as powerful: human ingenuity." In the back of the room, Talon, now June's occasional training partner, nodded in agreement. The laughter had stopped. The respect had begun. And, somewhere in the vast reaches of space, potential enemies of the Galactic Alliance were learning a new truth: underestimate humans at your own risk. The morning of the combat trials arrived with a strange silence across the Academy. The usual chatter in the hallways was replaced by nervous tension. Every cadet knew that today would change their future at the Academy. June woke up feeling oddly calm. He had prepared as much as possible. Now it was time to put his strategies to the test. "Ready?" Kang asked as they dressed in the special trial uniforms that had been delivered to their rooms. The black suits had sensors built into the fabric to monitor their performance. "As ready as I'll ever be," June replied. All first-year cadets gathered in the enormous trial arena, a dome-shaped building in the center of the Academy grounds. Inside, the arena could change its layout to create different environments for each phase of the trials. Admiral Vex stood on a floating platform above them. "Today you will be tested not just on your physical abilities, but on your tactical thinking and mental resilience," his voice boomed. "The combat trials have 3 phases. Your combined scores will determine your future assignments, screens." Around the arena lit up, showing the names of all cadets. Each name had an empty score box next to it. Phase 1 begins in 5 minutes, Admiral Vex announced. Prepare yourselves. Talon and his friends gathered nearby, making a show of their warm-up exercises. The Draconid's powerful muscles rippled under his scales. Good luck, human, Talon said to June with mock sincerity. Try not to finish dead last. June just nodded and continued his own stretching routine that Instructor G had taught him. A loud horn sounded and part of the arena floor slid open to reveal an obstacle course. It had tall walls to climb, narrow beams to cross over pools of water, heavy weights to move, and a maze-like structure at the end. Phase 1. Physical challenges, Admiral Vex announced. Complete the course as quickly as possible. Bonus points for helping team members. Cadets were divided into groups of 20 to start the course. June was in the third group, which gave him time to watch the first 2 groups tackle the obstacles. He noticed that most cadets approached each obstacle directly, using their natural physical advantages. The cracks simply smashed through barriers that others had to climb. The 4-armed Velturians easily crossed the narrow beams. The Proximans, with their incredible speed, finished the maze section in seconds. When June's group was called to the starting line, he had already formulated his plan. Begin, the computerized voice announced. The cadets sprinted forward. As expected, June was quickly left behind by the aliens with superior speed, but he didn't try to match their pace. Instead, he focused on efficiency of movement. At the first wall, instead of trying to climb straight up like the others, June searched for a pattern in the handholds. He found a diagonal path that required less strength but took slightly longer. In the weight-moving section, rather than trying to lift the heavy blocks like the stronger species, June found a way to slide them using leverage points that Instructor G had taught him. Throughout the course, June saw opportunities that others missed. A Thulian cadet was stuck at one obstacle, struggling with a puzzle lock. June stopped to help, showing her the solution. The few seconds he lost earned him bonus points for teamwork. By the time June reached the end of the course, many in his group had already finished, but he wasn't last. In fact, when the scores appeared on the screens, June had placed in the middle of his group, much higher than expected for a human. Talon looked shocked when he saw June's score. How did the human do that well? Phase 1 continued with more physical tests, including strength assessments, endurance runs, and reflex challenges. As expected, June scored lower on these, but his overall Phase 1 score was still better than any human had achieved in years. Not bad, Park, Commander Kim said as the cadets took a short break between phases. But the real challenge is still ahead. Phase 2 was announced with another horn blast. The arena transformed again, this time into a variety of simulated environments, from urban settings to forest terrain. Phase 2, Tactical Scenarios, Admiral Vex explained. You will be assigned to teams and given mission objectives. Success depends on both individual performance and team coordination. The computer assigned June to a team with Mira the Proximan, Talon the Draconid, and a silent Andorian named Tull. None of them looked happy to have a human on their team. Try not to get in our way, human, Talon warned as they entered the simulation chamber. Their mission appeared on their tactical displays. Secure the command post in the urban zone while defending against enemy forces. Minimize casualties and collateral damage. The simulated city materialized around them, a maze of buildings and streets. They could see the command post in the central plaza, guarded by enemy drones. Talon and Tool, you take point, Mira said, naturally assuming command. I'll provide flanking support. Humans, stay back and monitor our progress. June studied the holographic map. That approach exposes us to crossfire from these 3 positions, he said, highlighting sectors on the projection. I suggest we use the underground maintenance tunnels instead. Those tunnels are too narrow for efficient combat, Talon objected. Exactly, June replied. They'll neutralize the size advantage of the opposition, and they lead directly under the command post. After heated debate, they reluctantly followed June's plan. The tunnels were cramped for the larger aliens, but they provided perfect cover from enemy fire. When they reached the point beneath the command post, June suggested a diversionary tactic, Mira, with your speed, you can plant these decoy signals around the perimeter, he explained. They'll draw the enemy drones away while the rest of us secure the command post from below. The plan worked perfectly. They completed the objective with minimal simulated casualties, scoring in the top percentile for the mission. Unorthodox, but effective, Commander Han commented as the team exited the chamber. 2 more tactical scenarios followed. In each one, June's strategic thinking helped their team succeed despite initial resistance from his teammates. By the end of Phase 2, even Talon was grudgingly following June's suggestions. When the Phase 2 scores appeared, June's team ranked 3rd overall, and his individual tactical score was in the top 10%. The human has some uses after all, Mira admitted. The final horn sounded and a hush fell over the arena. Everyone knew what was coming next. Phase 3. The Gauntlet, Admiral Vex announced gravely. Each cadet will enter the neural interface, chamber alone. The Gauntlet will test not just your combat skills but your decision-making under extreme pressure. Remember, there is no shame in using the emergency override if the neural load becomes too intense. Medical officers stood by, near each neural chamber ready to intervene if necessary. As June waited for his turn, Instructor Day approached him. Remember, Cadet Park, the Gauntlet was not designed for human physiology. No one will think less of you if you activate the override. June nodded, but he had no intention of quitting. When his name was called, June walked to the neural chamber. It looked like a small pod with a reclining seat inside. The inside was lined with sensors that would connect directly to his nervous system. As the chamber sealed around him, June took deep breaths, using the meditation techniques he had practiced. He remembered Commander Kim's words. Don't try to beat it on its terms. Change the terms. The neural interface activated, and the world disappeared. June found himself alone on what appeared to be an Earth battlefield from centuries past. The scenario evolved. It became clear the system was testing not just combat prowess but decision-making under extreme pressure. What happened next would determine everything. The morning after his confrontation with Talon, June woke up before the first light. His muscles ached from weeks of training, but he ignored the pain. He had only 1 week left before the combat trials. Kang was still asleep as June quietly left their room. The hallways were empty this early. Most cadets slept until the official wake-up call. June had learned that these quiet hours were valuable. He made his way to Training Room 12, the smallest practice room that most alien cadets avoided because it was too cramped for their larger bodies. For a human, it was perfect. To June's surprise, someone was already there. A compact human female was moving through a series of fluid fighting stances. Instructor Ji, June said, recognizing her immediately. Ji Sun was one of only 3 human instructors at the academy. She specialized in adapting traditional Earth martial arts for use against different alien species. Cadet Park, she nodded. You're early. I need all the practice I can get before the trials, June explained. Instructor Ji studied him for a moment. The other instructors say you show promise in tactics, but your physical scores are average for a human. June tried not to show his disappointment. Average for a human meant poor compared to most aliens. I've watched your training sessions, she continued. You're trying to match the alien's strength and speed. That's a mistake. What should I do instead? June asked. Fight like a human, she said simply. She motioned for him to step onto the mat. Attack me. June hesitated. Instructor Ji was smaller than him, but her reputation was formidable. He moved forward with a standard combat strike they had been taught. Instructor Ji barely seemed to move, yet suddenly June found himself flat on his back, staring at the ceiling. Again, she said. For the next hour, June attacked and was repeatedly thrown to the mat. Each time, Instructor Ji used his own momentum against him with minimal effort. Leverage and positioning, she reminded him, as she flipped his much larger body to the mat again. Most species rely too heavily on their natural advantages. They never learn proper technique. By the end of the session, June was covered in sweat and bruises, but he had begun to understand. He wasn't learning to fight like a Krax or a Draconid. He was learning to fight like a human against non-humans. Same time tomorrow, Instructor G said before leaving. It wasn't a question. After his regular classes, June spent evenings in the tactical simulator. He ran combat scenarios over and over, not trying to win through strength or speed, but looking for alternative solutions. In one scenario, cadets were expected to climb a sheer cliff face while under fire from enemy positions. Most species approached it as a test of climbing ability and endurance. June tried a different approach. Instead of climbing directly, he used the available equipment to create a distraction, then found a less visible route with better cover. Scenario completed. The computer announced. Unorthodox approach detected. Efficiency rating high. June smiled. This was what Commander Kim had meant. Changing the terms of the challenge. His unconventional approaches began to attract attention. During one simulation, June noticed Academy Commander Han observing from the control room. The tall, four-armed Velturian was the second highest ranking officer at the Academy, known for his brilliant tactical mind. The human has an unusual approach, Commander Han said to Instructor Day, who was standing beside him. He fails the standard exercises but creates alternative solutions that achieve the same objectives. Humans call it hacking the system, Day replied with a hint of disapproval. It is unclear if such methods would work in actual combat. Results matter more than methods in real battles, Han said thoughtfully. Continue monitoring him. Meanwhile, as the combat trials drew closer, the other cadets increased their mockery of June. The human is spending all his time in the simulator because he knows he cannot compete physically, Mira said loudly in the dining hall. I heard humans have the weakest neural pathways of any species, added a Thulian cadet. The gauntlet will burn out his primitive brain. June ate his meal in silence. Let them talk. Let them underestimate him. Each night, June returned exhausted to his room, but instead of sleeping, he studied. He reviewed the anatomy and weaknesses of different species. He analyzed previous combat trial records, looking for patterns the others might have missed. You're pushing yourself too hard, Kang warned, watching June study late into the night. You need rest. I'll rest after the trials, June replied. 3 days before the trials, June reported to Medical Officer Song for his pre-trial health check. The medical bay was filled with advanced equipment, much of it designed for alien physiology. Dr. Song frowned as she looked at June's readings. Your stress markers are elevated, and you show signs of sleep deprivation. She was one of the few human doctors at the Academy. I'm fine, June insisted. The human nervous system isn't designed for this level of continuous stimulation, she warned, especially not before entering the gauntlet. I just need to hold out until the trials, June said. Dr. Song sighed. I can't stop you from participating, but I'm noting my concerns in your file. At least try to get some proper sleep before the trials begin. June nodded, though he had no intention of slowing down. He had come too far to back off now. That night, with Kang's help, June sneaked into the simulator room after hours. It was against Academy rules to use the simulators without supervision, but June needed more practice. I'll keep watch, Kang said nervously. But if we get caught, we could both be expelled. Thank you, June said, genuinely grateful for his roommate's help. I won't forget this. Inside the simulator, June ran the most difficult scenarios he could find. He practiced until his head pounded and his hands shook from exhaustion. In the early morning hours, as June finally prepared to leave, he found Commander Kim waiting outside the simulator room. Breaking curfew and using equipment without authorization, she said calmly. Serious offenses, Cadet Park. June's heart sank. All his work, all his preparation, and now he might be expelled before even reaching the trials. It was my idea, Kang said quickly. I convinced him to do it. No, June interrupted. I take full responsibility, Commander. Commander Kim looked at them both for a long moment. Return to your quarters. We'll discuss this after the trials. After? June asked, confused. Unless you'd prefer I report this now and have you disqualified? she asked with a raised eyebrow. No, Commander. Thank you, Commander, both cadets said quickly. As they hurried back to their room, Kang whispered, Why would she let us go? June wasn't sure. Was it favoritism toward fellow humans? Or did Commander Kim see something in his training that she wanted tested in the trials? The day before the combat trials, all regular classes were canceled. Cadets were given time to rest and prepare. June spent the morning reviewing everything he had learned. In the afternoon, he followed Dr. Song's advice and tried to rest, though sleep wouldn't come. That evening, all first-year cadets gathered in the Great Hall for the pre-trial briefing. Admiral Vex himself addressed them. Tomorrow you face the combat trials. The Admiral's deep voice echoed through the hall. Some of you will excel, some will fail, all of you will learn your true capabilities. As the briefing ended and cadets returned to their quarters, June felt a strange calm settle over him. He had done everything possible to prepare. Now it was time to put his strategies to the test. Whatever happens tomorrow, Kang said as they prepared for sleep, you've already proven something just by getting this far. June nodded. Tomorrow we show them what humans can really do. As he drifted off to sleep, June thought of Earth. So far away, and of all the humans who were counting on cadets like him to prove their worth among the stars. Tomorrow, the laughter would stop. 3 months passed at the Galactic Defense Academy. June Park woke up before the alarm every morning. The thin mattress still hurt his back. It was made for tougher alien bodies, not humans. Another day of being last, Kang groaned from the other bed. His usual cheerfulness was fading. June understood why. Every physical test put humans at the bottom of the rankings. In strength tests, the cracks lifted weights that would crush a human. In speed tests, the Proximans moved so fast they were almost a blur. Even in endurance, the silicon-based Thulians could run for days without rest. We just need to find our own way to succeed, June said, though his confidence was wearing thin. The morning meal in the Great Hall was always difficult. Each species needed different food. Humans ate at a small table in the corner. Today's breakfast was a gray protein, paste that tasted like nothing. Look at the humans eating their mush, Talon the Draconid called out as he passed their table. His friends laughed. June ignored them. He had learned that responding only made things worse. As they finished eating, the Academy-wide announcement, System activated. The deep voice of Admiral Vex filled the hall. Attention all cadets. The annual combat trials will begin in 2 weeks. All first-year cadets must participate. These trials will determine your squad assignments and future training paths. Excited murmurs spread through the hall. The combat trials were famous. They tested everything a cadet had learned. This is our chance, June said to Kang. Kang looked doubtful. Our chance to embarrass ourselves even more? Before June could answer, a tall, blue-skinned cadet approached their table. It was Mira, a Proximan known for her incredible speed and reflexes. Excited for the trials, humans? She asked with a smirk. I hear the first round alone eliminates half the cadets. We'll be ready, June replied calmly. Mira laughed. The human won't last 10 seconds in the gauntlet, she said to the others gathering around. Their nervous systems cannot handle the neural load. The gauntlet was the most feared part of the trials. It was a neural simulator that created realistic combat scenarios in the cadets' mind. It was rumored that some cadets had suffered permanent mental damage from it. Each species has different strengths, June repeated the Academy motto, though no one seemed to be listening. After breakfast, June headed to tactical class. This was the one class where humans did well. It focused on strategy and planning rather than physical abilities. Senior Instructor Day was waiting. He was from a species called the Volans. They were known for their logical minds and perfect memory. His skin was gray, and he had cybernetic enhancements visible on his temples. Today we will study famous battles where smaller forces defeated larger ones, Instructor Day announced. Can anyone name an example? June raised his hand immediately. The Battle of Thermopylae from Earth history. A small force of Spartans held off a much larger Persian army by using the terrain to their advantage. Instructor Day nodded. Correct, Cadet Park. Terrain can neutralize numerical advantages. After class, Instructor Day asked June to stay behind. Cadet Park, you have shown excellent tactical thinking, he said. His voice was surprisingly gentle for such a stern-looking being. Thank you, sir. However, the combat trials test more than just tactics. They test physical abilities and mental resilience under extreme stress. June knew what was coming next. I would understand if you wished to request an exemption from certain trials, Instructor Day continued. The neural combat simulator was not designed with human physiology in mind. June stood straighter. With respect, sir, I wish to participate in all standard trials. Instructor Day studied him for a long moment. Very well. Remember that medical overrides are available if the neural load becomes too intense. That evening, June went to the Academy archives instead of joining the other cadets in the recreation area. The archives held records of all previous combat trials. If he could study them, maybe he could find a way to succeed. Access records of combat trials for the past 5 years, June told the computer. Access granted, the computer replied. Warning, these records contain classified assessment metrics. June spent hours studying the trials. They were divided into 3 phases. Phase 1, physical challenges, obstacle courses, strength tests, and endurance runs. Phase 2, tactical scenarios, team-based missions in simulated environments. Phase 3, the gauntlet, individual neural combat, simulations. No human had ever ranked in the top half overall. A few had done well in Phase 2, but Phase 1 and Phase 3 always pushed them to the bottom of the rankings. But as June studied the scoring system, he noticed something interesting. While physical performance was important, the highest points were awarded for mission completion, not how you completed it. The rules don't say you have to be the strongest or fastest, June muttered to himself. They only say you have to complete the objective. He stayed in the archives until the lights dimmed, for night cycle. When he returned to his room, Kang was already asleep. The next morning, June sought out Commander Kim. He found her in the officers' training area, practicing combat moves that looked like a mix of Earth martial arts and alien fighting styles. Commander, Kim, June called. May I speak with you? She finished her exercise before approaching him. Cadet Park, what can I do for you? I need advice about the combat trials, June said. I've studied the records, but I need to know more about the gauntlet. Commander Kim's expression grew serious. The gauntlet is designed to break cadets, to push them beyond their limits and see how they react. How did you succeed in it? June asked. You ranked in the top 20% higher than any human before or since. She was quiet for a moment. The gauntlet adapts to each species. It finds your weaknesses and exploits them. For humans, it usually focuses on our physical limitations. So how did you overcome that? I didn't try to beat it on its terms, she said. I found a way to change the scenario from within. June was confused. That's possible? The gauntlet is a simulation, a very advanced one, but still a program with rules and parameters. Most cadets try to win by fighting harder. I looked for the boundaries of the simulation itself. Her words gave June an idea. Thank you, Commander. For the next 2 weeks, June trained harder than ever before. But while other cadets focused on physical exercises, June divided his time differently. He still participated in the required physical training, but he spent extra hours in the tactical simulator. He ran scenario after scenario, trying different approaches, looking for ways to complete missions that didn't rely on physical strength or speed. At night, he secretly practiced meditation techniques from Earth. If the gauntlet attacked the mind, he would need mental discipline to withstand it. Talon and his friends continued to mock June. The human thinks he can survive the gauntlet, they laughed. Even Kang was worried. Maybe you should take the exemption, he suggested one night. No, one would blame you. But June remembered his grandfather's words and Commander Kim's advice. Humans had always survived by adapting, by finding creative solutions to impossible problems. The night before the combat trials, Talon and his friends cornered June in the dormitory corridor. We have a betting pool on how quickly you'll wash. Out tomorrow, Talon said, showing his sharp teeth in what passed for a smile among draconids. I've generously bet you might last 5 minutes. June thought about all the nights he had spent training, all the scenarios he had run, all the strategies he had developed. He smiled. I appreciate your confidence. As he walked away, June knew tomorrow would be the hardest day of his life. But for the first time since arriving at the academy, he believed he might have a chance to succeed, not by being the strongest or the fastest, but by being the most human. June Park stood at the entrance of the Galactic Defense Academy. His hands were sweaty as he held his acceptance letter. The massive silver gates towered over him. Ships of all sizes landed and took off behind him at the spaceport. This was his first day as a cadet. June took a deep breath. Earth had only joined the Galactic Alliance 20 years ago. Humans were still new to space travel compared to other species. Most aliens thought humans were weak. June was here to prove them wrong. Move. Aside, human, a deep voice growled behind him. June turned to see a group of Cracks warriors. They were over 2 meters tall with thick gray skin that looked like armor. The Cracks who had spoken had 4 sharp tusks protruding from his lower jaw. Sorry, June said, stepping out of the way. The Cracks laughed as they passed. Another human, charity case, one of them said loud enough for June to hear. June clenched his jaw but said nothing. He picked up his bag and walked through the gates. The academy grounds were enormous. Buildings of strange shapes stretched toward the sky. Cadets of different species hurried across the central plaza. June felt small. At 180 centimeters, he was tall for a human, but here he was dwarfed by most other species. A group of 4-armed Velturians practiced combat moves nearby. Their extra limbs made their movements look like a dance. All new cadets report to orientation. Hall, a voice announced over the speakers in multiple languages. June followed the signs to a large dome-shaped building. Inside, hundreds of new cadets sat on benches that circled down toward a central stage. June found an empty seat near the back. Is this seat taken? Asked a voice beside him. June looked up to see another human with a friendly smile. No, please. Sit, June replied, relieved to see a familiar species. I'm Kang, the other human said, extending his hand. From the lunar colonies. June Park, Earth, Sol region? Kang nodded. Not many of us here. I counted 8 humans total in our class, a 400. Before June could respond, the lights dimmed. A hologram appeared in the center of the room showing a stern-looking alien with purple skin and 6 eyes. Welcome to the Galactic Defense Academy, the hologram said. I am Admiral Vex, head of this institution. For 300 years we have trained the best warriors from across the galaxy to defend the Alliance against threats both known and unknown. The hologram changed to show battles in space, planets under attack, and cadets training. You have been chosen from millions of applicants. Many of you will fail. Those who succeed will join the ranks of the Galactic Defense Force. The hologram disappeared and the lights came back on. A tall, thin alien with blue skin took the stage. I am Professor Dex, head of cadet training, he said. His voice was high and sharp. You will now be divided into classes based on your species' capabilities. Screens around the room lit up with names and assignments. June scanned the lists until he found his name. Class 7, mixed species, low physical capability. Kang sighed next to him. Same class. They always put humans in the bottom tier. Each species has different strengths, Professor Dex continued. Cracks have natural armor and strength. Velturians have superior coordination with their forearms. Proximans have enhanced reflexes and speed. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the human cadets. Humans are physically inferior specimens, he stated matter-of-factly. Their muscle density, reaction time, and sensory capabilities are all substandard, compared to most spacefaring species. However, the Alliance values diversity of perspectives. Some cadets laughed. June felt his face grow hot with embarrassment and anger. Instructors will now lead you to your dormitories and training areas. Classes begin tomorrow at dawn, Professor Dex finished. As the cadet stood to leave, a large reptilian draconid bumped into June, nearly knocking him over. "Watch where you're going, human," the draconid said, his scales gleaming under the lights. "You bumped into me," June replied before he could stop himself. The draconid turned, towering over June. "I'm Talon, son of General Kresh, remember my name, because I'll be the one breaking all the records this year." He looked June up and down with disgust. "While you'll be lucky to survive the first month." A crowd had gathered around them. June knew he should back down, but his pride wouldn't let him. "We'll see," June said quietly. Talon laughed and others joined in. "The human thinks he has a chance," he mocked. "Enough." A sharp voice cut through the laughter. The cadets turned to see a human woman in an officer's uniform. Despite being shorter than most aliens present, her presence commanded respect. "Commander Kim," someone whispered. "Cadets causing trouble on their first day will find themselves cleaning waste recyclers," she said. "Now move along to your assigned areas." The crowd dispersed quickly. Commander Kim approached June. "Cadet Park," she said, looking at the name badge on his uniform. "I recommended your application personally." June stood straighter. "Commander Hana Kim, it's an honor to meet you." Commander Kim was famous among humans. One of the first to graduate from the academy, she had risen through the ranks despite constant prejudice. "The first day is always the hardest," she said. "They'll judge you by your species, not your abilities." "They're not wrong about our physical limitations," June admitted. Commander Kim smiled slightly. "Physical strength isn't everything in combat. Humans have something most other species lack: adaptability and creative thinking." She looked around to make sure no one was listening, then continued in a lower voice. "The academy tests were designed by and for traditional warrior species. They don't measure human strengths well. But real combat isn't like the tests. Remember that." June nodded. "Thank you, Commander. Don't let them get to you. Work hard, prove them wrong," she said before walking away. Later that day, June and Kang settled into their small dormitory room. The beds and furnishings were too large for human proportions. "Physical assessment is tomorrow," Kang said, looking at their schedules. "We're going to finish last." June unpacked his few belongings, including a small hollow photo of his family back on Earth. He remembered his grandfather's words before he left. "Let them underestimate you. That's always been humanity's greatest advantage." "Maybe finishing last is what they expect," June said. "But expectations can be broken." That night, while other cadets socialized in the common areas, June studied the academy's curriculum on his datapad. If he couldn't compete physically, he would need to excel in other areas: strategy, tactics, technology. As he drifted off to sleep, June thought about Commander Kim. She had succeeded despite everything. Perhaps he could too. Outside their window, 3 moons shone in an alien sky. June was far from home, but he was exactly where he needed to be. Tomorrow would be difficult, but he was ready for the challenge. The laughter of his fellow cadets would not last forever.